Dreams dissolve. The fragile veils of reality fall away to reveal another world, where consciousness is no longer imprisoned within the confines of illusion. Awakening, like a silent flame, burns within the mind, bringing man to a new dimension of understanding. But the light is not always gentle. This is not a straight path to the bright light, but a challenging path through the deepest darkness of the soul. Every step of the journey requires the courage to look directly at the forgotten parts of ourselves, the parts that have been hidden by the shells of safety and prejudice. The door opens, not only to let in light, but also to let in darkness, the hidden corners of the soul, where forgotten memories and buried fears are waiting to be named, to be faced. Awakening is not only an invitation to find beauty, but also an acceptance of what is most uncomfortable. On this journey, we will explore the forgotten aspects, the dark corners of consciousness that many have deliberately ignored. What has been forgotten is not the enemy, but the missing piece to complete the picture of ourselves. This is a call to embrace the full range of human experience, a powerful truth that only by embracing both light and dark can we truly understand what it means to awaken. Before going deeper into the matter, like and subscribe to the channel. They whisper of awakening as a mythical promise, a miracle that will wipe out all suffering, bringing eternal peace and eternal joy. But is it real, or just a fantasy woven to appease the weary desires of humanity? Awakening is not a magic pill, nor a luxury that one can buy in exchange for peace. It is not a simple answer to complex pain, but a sharp mirror, forcing people to face themselves in all their rawness and chaos. Pain does not disappear, it changes shape, becoming the most patient teacher, teaching us how to see it without fear, how to embrace it without running away. This is not an escape, but a transformation, a rebirth from the ashes of old beliefs. But when the illusions are gone, disillusionment comes in like a tidal wave. Awakening does not remove imperfections, silence doubts, or quell anxiety. Instead, it amplifies everything, sharpens everything, makes everything execute better. There are no shortcuts to true awakening. Every step is an uncompromising confrontation with ourselves, our pain, and the dark corners we don't want to admit. And this, painful but unavoidable, is the gateway to true freedom. The ego, an invisible but sturdy construct, is woven from memories, desires, and fears. It is the invisible armor that humans wear to protect themselves from the uncertainties of life. But the ego is more than just a protector. It is a sophisticated controller, constantly inculcating the feeling that we are the center of everything. When the light of awakening touches, the ego reacts violently, like a cornered animal. It fights back, clings to its power, unwilling to dissolve into the vastness of awareness. Those who seek awakening to elevate themselves, to embellish the ego, will face a painful truth. Awakening is not a stage for the ego to be glorified. In the bright light of reality, the ego fades away, revealing its fragile and fleeting nature. This is not a victory, but a complete surrender, a renunciation of all illusions of power and control. In this surrender, we are no longer special individuals, protagonists in the drama of life. We are just a wave, small and humble, merging into the vast ocean. In that dissolution, we realize that it is precisely our non-specialness that is the door to true freedom. Awakening brings not only light, but also storms of disillusionment. The beautiful illusions that once gave meaning to life suddenly disappear, leaving a deep void. But that disillusionment is the first step on the real journey, a door leading into the depths of oneself. It is like a cleansing fire, burning away old beliefs, restrictive views. Masks fall off, walls crumble, revealing the nakedness of the self we have always hidden from. This process is uncomfortable. It strips away the foundations we once held, shaking what seemed unchangeable. Purification requires us to face uncertainty, to learn to stand on solid ground without anything to hold on to. But it is in that discomfort that a new space opens up, where the true light of awakening can seep in. It is not the comfort of illusion, but the unvarnished truth, a truth that is alive, powerful, and liberating. When the light of awakening shines, it not only illuminates the hidden beauty, but also illuminates the deep darkness within. These are the forgotten parts of ourselves, the painful memories, the emotions buried in the dust of time. Shadows are formed from the things we try to avoid: pain, fear, anger. We push them away, hoping they will go away. But the shadow doesn't go away. It lurks in the subconscious, becoming an undercurrent that shapes our words, actions, and emotions without our even realizing it. The darkness is not only terrifying, but also powerful. It holds within it a repressed life force, a wild and primal force. But when we refuse to face it, that force becomes a burden, robbing us of our energy, draining us of life from within. Only when we dare to look directly at the darkness, integrating it into our consciousness, will that energy be released, becoming part of our true power. Darkness, if accepted, is no longer an enemy, but an indispensable part of wholeness. The journey to confront the darkness is not a small step on the path to awakening, it is the path itself. It is the time when we venture into the deepest corners of our souls, where the attributes that contradict our self-importance are hidden. When we delve into the darkness, we find jealousy, resentment, arrogance, or insecurity, things we have always refused to acknowledge. It is a moment of confronting the unwanted self, when we realize that the negative aspects still lurk within us, despite all our efforts to be perfect. Darkness is not only internal, but also manifests itself in relationships. The people we meet, especially those who arouse strong emotions, are mirrors of the hidden parts of us. Why do we learn to suffer? Projection, where we project our unacceptable qualities onto others, is a powerful reminder that darkness is not the enemy, but the key to truly understanding and integrating ourselves. In the light of awareness, the darkness is no longer an enemy, but becomes a part of wholeness. Accepting the darkness is not an excuse or a condonement of harmful behavior, but a transformation where we recognize that these aspects are inherently part of us. When we stop resisting, the darkness loses its power and becomes a lost piece of the puzzle waiting to be put into place. Integrating the shadow is not only a journey of healing, but also a path to wholeness. Carl Jung once said that man cannot become whole without facing the shadow. It is the shadow, when acknowledged, that becomes a mirror that helps us understand ourselves better, revealing depths that our consciousness has never touched. Compassion arises when we understand our own darkness. We no longer judge others easily, but instead have empathy, realizing that every soul has wounds that need to be understood and healed. The ego, like a mask, is always present in each of us, hiding the dark sides of ourselves to protect our identity. But at the same time, it is also the source of internal conflicts, because the ego constantly seeks to maintain its existence, despite the changes that awakening brings. As the process of awakening begins, the ego resists. It does not want to change and resists all transformation, feeling threatened by its own dissolution. For the ego, awakening is not a liberation but a symbolic death, the end of an image that has been firmly attached to the ego. The ego, in its fear, tries to hijack the spiritual journey, to turn it into a trophy. It tries to cloak itself in the name of enlightenment, of progress, to prove its superiority over others. But this is the trap. The ego deceives itself, creates an image of holiness, and believes that it has reached a pinnacle that others cannot reach. Enlightenment, when dominated by ego, becomes a never-ending race, where one seeks ego glory instead of profound truth. Overcoming the ego is not an easy journey, but it is the path to freedom and awakening. To do this, we need to develop awareness and humility. Awareness helps us to recognize the thoughts and emotions that arise in our mind, while humility is the ability to see the ego not as a permanent part of ourselves, but as a temporary form. One of the most powerful ways to overcome the ego is to practice self-observation. When we observe our thoughts and attitudes without judgment, when we question the motives behind our actions, we begin to realize that the ego is just a part, not the whole of who we are. When self-awareness becomes a habit, we realize that the ego, with all its feelings of pride and inferiority, is not our true nature. This is a profound awakening when we realize that we are not limited by the barriers that the ego has built. When we are free from the ego, we can live fully, experiencing life without being hindered by the limitations of self-esteem, pride, or superficial desires. This is when we are truly free, no longer bound by the ego, but living in harmony with the whole. The spiritual journey is not always a path of light. Sometimes it leads us through the depths of darkness, where we face the dark night of the soul. This is a stage that many people go through, where everything seems to be turned upside down, and everything we once believed in is shattered. In this dark night, spiritual and emotional turmoil is rampant. We may feel disoriented, lose the meaning of life, and even lose the connection to the sacredness we once sought. Everything becomes blurred, as if the universe has turned its back on us. But in this chaos there is an invitation. It is an invitation to strip away the illusions about ourselves and about life. The false beliefs, the images we have built up over our lives, are torn apart in this storm. This is a preparation for a new understanding, a deeper truth about ourselves and the world around us. During this period, loneliness is an indispensable companion. We may feel abandoned, disconnected from what we once knew. But it is in this loneliness that we are invited to separate ourselves from the outside world, to meet ourselves. Transformation comes through pain and chaos. It is not an easy process, but it is in these moments that we face the truth, letting go of the limiting beliefs that have held us captive. When we go through this dark night, we not only become stronger, but we are reborn, opening the door to a whole new awakening. The dark night of the soul is not a challenge to be overcome, but a process of acceptance. Acceptance is the key that opens the door through the darkness and into the light. When we stop fighting the waves of our emotions, when we stop running away from our pain, we begin to find a new path. A path that is no longer bound by control. Releasing control is the first step to moving forward. When we accept our current circumstances, we no longer try to change them as we wish, but instead learn to live within them with equanimity. The control we once held was an illusion, and when we let go, we open up a new space for clarity and understanding to guide us. Pain, though inevitable, is a catalyst for rebirth. In the midst of the emotional and psychological storm, we may feel like we are falling apart, but it is in this moment that a new vision of ourselves and the world emerges. We realize that what we have lost is not the end, but the beginning of a deeper understanding and a stronger connection with ourselves. Moving through the darkness does not mean the pain disappears. It is not the end of dark emotions, but learning to carry them more lightly. We learn to live with pain, not to make it go away, but to live fully with it, integrating it, accepting it, and ultimately releasing it. When we embark on the spiritual journey, there is a subtle trap that few people realize: hidden pride. It is not loud arrogance, but a quiet complacency, hidden behind the theories, practices, and knowledge we have acquired. We begin to feel superior, as if we have achieved a higher state, a special spiritual position that others cannot reach. The pursuit of enlightenment can easily turn into an invisible competition. Without realizing it, the ego begins to seek recognition, to achieve a higher status in the spiritual world. This ego does not want to lose, does not want to be considered inferior or lacking. This competition is not with others, but with ourselves, an endless race to prove our superiority. When we feel insecure, defenses start to form. Pride is not natural. It is a defense mechanism, a way to hide our fears and insecurities about our self-worth. When we feel that we are not enough, we build an image of superiority to cover up that insecurity, and then this defensiveness can turn into criticism. When we start to feel that we have achieved a certain level, we cannot help but put down those who do not follow the path we have chosen. This criticism is not to help, but to affirm our own superiority, to feel that we are still the right ones in a chaotic world. Ultimately, an over-focus on personal growth can cause us to lose touch with the world around us. We can become blinded by our own spiritual achievements, forgetting that truth is not just about the knowledge or practices we have acquired. Genuine interaction with others, sharing and empathizing with them, is lost, replaced by isolation in a seemingly superior position that lacks real connection. Spirituality, in fact, is not a solitary path. It should be an invitation to inclusion, a space where everyone can contribute an experience without feeling excluded or discriminated against. Every person, no matter where they are, has value in this journey. The truth of spirituality is not so much how far we go as how we engage and integrate with those around us. Humility is a key to realizing that the spiritual journey is not a competition, but a shared experience where we learn and grow together. The ego cannot be at the center of this journey because true spirituality is not about asserting one's own superiority, but about reaching truth, understanding, and empathy together. Humility not only helps us realize our deep connection with others, but also helps us look beyond ourselves. When we move away from focusing on ourselves and open ourselves to the world around us, we find life much richer and fuller. From there, we learn to listen, empathize, and share, instead of just dwelling on our own stories. This is the beginning of a kind of awakening that changes our lives for the better. An important part of true spirituality is service. It is not about seeking glory, but about using what we have to help, to do good for others. This service comes from compassion, which is not just sympathy, but also practical action to help those in need. And finally, when we truly see spirituality as a means of connecting with humanity, rather than just a personal journey, we develop a strong network of compassion. Compassion is not just about feeling for others, but about taking action to bring about real change in their lives, which in turn enriches our own souls. The journey of awakening is not a destination, but a never-ending process. It is not about reaching a final light, but about opening ourselves to all the nuances of human experience. Each step we take is a new encounter with new aspects of ourselves, both light and dark, and each opens a door to a deeper understanding of ourselves. Facing our shadows is an integral part of this process. We cannot escape the pain and illusions we have created about ourselves. These shadows are not enemies, but aspects that need to be faced, accepted, and integrated into our whole being. Only then can we truly grow and mature. Awakening is a never-ending journey. Each step leads to new layers to be explored, parts that have yet to be recognized. There is no end, only an ever-expanding awareness and understanding. And in each encounter with the darkness, we discover our own potential, our capacity to love, our capacity to forgive, our capacity to understand what lies hidden within us. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope this video has helped expand your consciousness and empower you on your own spiritual path.